Next up, we will learn about HTML attributes by creating hyperlinks and by inserting images into our page. So, hyperlinks, or links for short, are one of the most important parts of the web. And so, of course, we need to learn how to do them in HTML. So here in our app, we have this source link after each of the facts, so that the user can basically see where this fact comes from. So this is just a normal hyperlink, and so let's create one ourselves. So see how it says source here in all of them. And so the link text basically will be that, so just source. So let's start by creating that here. And where do you think we should place that? So you think it's here, after the paragraph, or right here, so inside the paragraph? Well, if the text, so if the link should appear right here close to this text, then it should probably also be inside of the paragraph. So just like this category here, right? So let's create that link here. And again, the element name is not what we might think it is, but instead we use the A element. And A stands for anchor. Okay? And remember that source was the text that we saw displayed on the page, right? However, of course, if we simply reload this now, then this is not a link, right? Because we haven't told HTML where that link should actually point to. So, how do you think we can do that? So first of all, let's grab the URL. So in this case, that's this. So again, that's coming from the data.js, which contains all the information about each of the facts. So where do we put this URL to tell HTML where the link should actually point to? We will not just put it here, right? Because that will simply place it also here as text. We could try to put it in here, and that is already almost correct. So nothing still happens here. So this is not what we want, so let's cut it from here. And so the way that we indicate where the link should point to is by specifying the href attribute. So we write inside of this opening tag, we write href and then equal and then quotes, and then here we paste the link into. Give it a save, and then here you see the typical blue text, which now we can click, and then that will move right to our page. Okay, but let's go back here to our HTML. So this here is what we call an attribute, and basically an attribute is a property of the element. And let's actually specify another attribute here, which is the target attribute. Because notice how when we clicked this link here, it moved to the URL, but it was here on the same page. So let's do that again. So we moved to this page, but navigated away from our app. And so we need to go back. And instead what we want is this to open in a new tab so that our app can stay open basically at all times. So that's what we use the target attribute for. And the value that we give it is underscore blank. All right, give it a save. And if we click now, then it opens nicely in a new tab. And once we close it, we are back in our application. Nice. So let's do that here again to practice. So it's the anchor element. Then let's immediately close it. And then here between the opening tag and the closing tag is the text that we want to see on the page. And then let's get the source, which we will put in an attribute. So again, the href attribute, and this will basically be invisible. So whatever we specify as attributes will stay invisible. Okay, and we forgot the target blank. And yeah, that works. Nice. Now, of course, different elements will have different attributes. So if we specified the same thing here on the P, then nothing should work. So you see, everything looks the same here, and of course we still cannot click on this paragraph because this special attribute only makes sense for the anchor element. Okay, so again, attributes are like invisible descriptions of an element, so that tell elements a bit better how they should work. So let's use another element that needs attributes in order to work, which is the image element. And the image element is special because of two reasons. First, because it needs attributes, as I just mentioned, but also because it is an element that has no closing tag. But let's see. So img stands for image, and then in order to close it, we simply write slash, and then close it like this. All right. But now, how do we specify what image should actually be displayed? Well, that's again where attributes come into play. And in the case of the image, it is the source attribute. So src, which stands for source. And so the source is basically the path to the image in the file system. So in our case, what we want is to display this logo here. So we can actually double click on this logo here, and it will then open the image right here in VS Code. So this is the logo of our page, and we now want to include this image into our HTML document so that we can then see it here on our page. So that's something pretty normal, right? And it's also quite easy to do. So the image is right here in the same folder as index.html. And so all we need to do is to write logo.png. And VS Code is actually trying to help us here by auto-completing the path here. Okay, and so if I now give it a save, then you see it is right here. Beautiful. Now if it was inside of some folder here, so imagine there was a folder called folder, then we would need to write that here as well. So specifying the path like that. So folder, and then in there, the logo. So folder/logo.png. But now there is no folder, and so this is how we do it. However, this image is way too big here, and so we can now use some more attributes to actually change that. So we can specify the height, and here it shows 68 pixels, and the same for the width. So we can also specify the width, and let's also set it to 68. Give it a save, and then it becomes much smaller. And of course, if I set it to something else here, then well, the browser would try to stretch it. But in this case, this logo is actually a square, and so the width needs to be the same as the height. All right. And we will talk again about these dimensions here once we talk about CSS. Finally, all logos should also have something called an alt text. So an alt text is basically a textual description of whatever is in the image, so that, again, images can also be read by screen readers. So by people who might be visiting our page but cannot see the content. So this image here is basically the logo of Today I Learned. So Today I Learned logo. Something like this. Okay, and visually nothing changes here, but that's not the point. So this text here is really only basically for screen readers and also for search engine optimization. Great. So now you know how to create images and also how to link to other pages, which is really great progress.